Today we are going to look at the NASCAR playoff standings. There are only 3 races remaining in the NASCAR regular season. Of course, if you do not know this, NASCAR has a playoff system. Win and you are in. And of course, the remaining spots, if there are not 16 winners in the playoffs, go to the top points finishers. 16 places. Already 13 of them have been locked up by 13 different winners. And yeah, we've only got 3 spots remaining, so if we get 3 different winners, there will be no spot, or 3 new different winners in the next 3 races. There will be no spots for the points unless Denny Hamlin wins the regular season points championship. In that case, he automatically gets a spot, and the lowest winner would miss out. It's a little complicated. It's overly complicated. That's a whole different rant for a whole different day, but I will talk about my issues with that here in a second. But let's look at the standings. This is the best picture I could find that you could see all the 16 drivers and bubble drivers on one screen. So here we go. But the most interesting part of this is the cutoff line. But in this instance, I think the regular season championship battle is actually very interesting to me. But yeah, so Denny Hamlin at the beginning of the year, he wasn't dominating. He wasn't like winning a bunch of races. He is still yet to win a race, in fact, this year. But he was leading a ton of laps. He was winning stages. He was on an insane top 5 finishing streak. So he had built a huge points lead, 150 plus points. He had a huge lead, and everyone's like, "Oh, Denny Hamlin's winning the regular season championship. There's not going to be a question there. Like, he could take off 2 races and he'd still win the regular season championship." Then Kyle Larson showed up, and he showed up strong, and that's an understatement. He won 4 consecutive races, I think 3 consecutive points races. He had 6 or 7 consecutive top 2 finishes, and he was winning stages, leading laps, getting stage points. He was insane. He cut the lead down all the way to 2 points on Denny Hamlin. And then in the past 4 to 5 races, it's kind of just stayed there. Larson didn't win again until after Nashville at the end of June. He didn't win again until this past week at Watkins Glen. Denny Hamlin still hasn't won, but both have been running pretty similar. They've both been running in the top 10. They've both been up at the top 5 at the same time. So they really haven't, one of them has not built an edge until this past Sunday. Coming into the Watkins Glen race, Denny Hamlin had a 13-point lead over Kyle Larson, and Larson closed it. After Sunday, he won the race, he got some stage points, and he closed it, and it is now tied atop of the standings. 917 points for both Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin for the regular season title. Why is this important? The regular season champion gets 15 additional playoff points. Second place only gets 10. I say only, but they only get 10, and that is extremely important in this instance because, well, Denny Hamlin is not locked into the playoffs. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think we get 3 new winners in the next 3 races, but in the instance, let's say at the Indy road course we see a surprise winner. Let's say Ross Chastain, he's run well on the road courses this year. He goes and wins the Indy road course. And then at Michigan, we have a fuel mileage race or something, and Austin Dillon wins. And then we go to Daytona, which is a complete wild card. Anyone could win there. And let's say, I don't know, throw something out there. Let's see, Chris Buescher. He wins at Daytona. And even at Michigan, Kevin Harvick's won the last 3 or 4 races there, so he could be a new winner there. But anyways, we get 3 different winners, and let's say Kyle Larson does better than Denny Hamlin and actually outscores Denny Hamlin in the points and wins the regular season title. Denny Hamlin misses the playoffs. And Kyle Larson, he locked himself into the playoffs a long time ago, but he doesn't need this regular season title. Obviously, he wants those 5 extra points compared to Hamlin, but, you know, he could potentially take a playoff spot away from a championship contender, Denny Hamlin, if he can hold on to that points lead. Now, as I said, I think it's very unlikely that we see 3 new winners in these last 3 races. You know, I just think it's unlikely. But in the case that it does happen, there is a chance that Hamlin misses the playoffs. It's a very slim chance. I would say less than 1%. But in the instance that it does happen, we do have to discuss it. But that is very important. But man, I'm so disappointed because this has been actually a really fun battle for the points lead. And I really wanted to see how it would play out. How it would play out over 36 races. How it would play out over a whole season. NASCAR, I think, is the only motorsport that doesn't have a full season champion. Like every single race, there's not a playoff system for like IndyCar, F1, whatever it may be. I think NASCAR is the only one. And it is killing a potential natural Game 7 moment. NASCAR has talked about this Game 7 moment. They have forced it since 2014 with the Championship 4 race. It's been an absolute gimmick. And, yeah, it's been a mess. It's been stupid. And, yeah, we could have had a great Game 7 moment. We could have had a great battle for the championship between two guys, two really good drivers battling for their first championship, neck and neck, two completely different stories on the season. But no, let's completely throw that out of the way, and let's see if neither of them wins the championship, just like last year. But, okay, that's the end of my little rant. That could turn into a 30-minute thing. So, let's move on. Let's look at the standings here. I've talked about the points long enough. Let's look at the standings. Locked into the playoffs with wins. Kyle Larson, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Busch, Chase Elliott, William Byron, Alex Bowman, Joey Logano, not Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Brad Keselowski, Kurt Busch, Christopher Bell, Michael McDowell, and Eric Almirola. Those are all of your winners in the 2021 NASCAR Cup Series season. Of course, Almirola got the win at New Hampshire to lock himself in. Remember, you have to be in the top 30 in points in order to have the win in your in kind of ticket thing. So Almirola is 24th in points. McDowell is currently 19th in points. They are the only two that are outside the top 16 in points that have wins, that are taking positions from guys with points that would have been in the playoffs. Now, looking at the points behind that, this is where it gets interesting. Kevin Harvick, or Denny Hamlin first, he currently has a 302-point advantage over the playoff cut. So, basically, if we get a repeat winner this week, Denny Hamlin clinches his spot in the playoffs. So, all he has to do is show up on Sunday and hope that there's a repeat winner, or hope that himself wins. And he's good. There you go. Then goes to Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick has a good bubble, even if there is a new winner this week. He currently has a 95-point bubble, or gap, on the final cutoff spot. And then to the guy behind him, Tyler Reddick, he currently has an 80-point gap. That is more than one race. The maximum amount of points you can get in one race without winning is 55 points. That would be 35 points for a second place finish and 20 points from winning both stages. So more than one race advantage on not only the bubble, but the guy behind him in the point. So Harvick is looking good. And he's going to a track that he's really good at in a couple of weeks at Michigan. So I am not too concerned about Kevin Harvick. The only concern that I would have is that there's a road course this weekend, and he has not been great at road courses recently. And Daytona is a wild card, but I think he does enough at Michigan. I think he can even win Michigan, so I'm really not concerned about Harvick. I think he'll be fine. Now this is where it gets interesting. This is where the gap is really close, and this can be switched in the matter of a stage or two. Tyler Reddick has a 15-point advantage on his teammate Austin Dillon. Coming into this race, remember, after the Eric Almirola win, it closed that gap. Reddick had a 60, 70-point gap, but when Almirola won, it moved the cutoff line down, and Austin Dillon and Tyler Reddick were really close in points. And coming into Watkins Glen, Reddick only had a 4 or 5 point advantage over Austin Dillon. And now that has been expanded just a bit. Reddick was able to get a few more stage points. He was able to finish in front of his teammates, and that allowed him to expand his lead to 15 points currently. But as I said, that can be switched in the matter of just a couple stages. Now, road courses, they've got mixed strategies. Guys will pit with 2 to go in the stage in order to make it before the pit road closes in order to get track position for the beginning of the next stage, so they'll give up stage points. Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon will not be doing that. They will be trying to get as many stage points as possible, trying to get as many of these points as possible. But let's say Tyler Reddick does pit at the end of the stage. Austin Dillon's got to say, yes, 100% we're staying out, trying to make that up. And let's say Austin Dillon wins stage 1 and Tyler Reddick pits so he doesn't get any stage points. That would mean that Austin Dillon would cut that gap from 15 to 5 in the matter of just 10, 15 laps, whatever the length of the first stage is. So the first couple of stages are going to be really important, the stage points. I think they do exactly what the other does. If one of them pits, well, actually, in that instance, I think they both stay out for the stage points. That's what I'm trying to say here. But in the instance that one pits, I think the other does the opposite with the stages. But when it comes to the end of the race, they are both going to try their best to win. As for after that, it's a must-win situation for everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're currently 30th in points or if you're 17th in points. Chris Buescher, 135 points back. DiBenedetto, 147. Chastain, 148. Stenhouse, 188. Everyone on down. It's a must-win. There's not a question about it. As I said, the most points you can get in one single race is 55 points. And the most you can outscore someone by is 54 because everyone gets a point, even if you finish dead last. So if you're outscoring everyone by 54 points, Buescher would still barely get over the line. So, yeah, almost mathematically in a must-win situation from Buescher down. I mean, those guys have to win. I think Buescher's best shot is at Daytona. DiBenedetto's best shot, Daytona. I think Chastain's best shot is this weekend at Indianapolis, but Daytona is a wild card. So, yeah, Stenhouse, Daytona, Bubba, Daytona. Briscoe this weekend, I would say this weekend. Indy Road Course, Suarez this weekend in Daytona. Eric Jones, Daytona, blah, blah, blah. Daytona's going to be a wild card. I honestly think we'll see a shock winner there that will punch their ticket into the playoffs, but I don't know, obviously. But, yeah. As for the bubble guys, I mean, it's going to be tough for them, obviously, to get a win. You know, they've been doing good in the points. They've been having solid, consistent seasons as for Dillon and Reddick, but without a win, it's going to be tough to make it, and the points are going to be close. But if I had to give an edge to one of them, Reddick has looked a little bit better this year, in my opinion. Austin Dillon's been a little bit more quiet, but he has had a good season. It's a shame that one of them has to miss the playoffs, in my opinion. Unfortunately, the playoff system is going to force one of them out, unless they both win, obviously. But in terms of who has the advantage, Daytona is such a wild card. That's just, you could flip a coin to who does better there. Going on to Michigan, I think they're even there. So that's a toss-up there. Indy Road Course, I mean, I think Reddick has a slight advantage. I think he's a little bit better at road courses, but Dillon has been he's been improving on road courses. So it's going to be a tough call if you had to ask me, so I'm not going to make a call there. As for the regular season championship bid, as for who wins that, I think Larson has a slight advantage at Indy Road Course just because he's been much better on the road courses this year than Hamlin. 2 wins, obviously, a runner-up at COTA. Hamlin's been good at the road courses, but Larson's been better. Michigan, you know, Hendrick's been a little bit, they haven't been awful, but they've been a little bit off on the intermediates, the 550 package recently. Joe Gibbs has been really good at the 550 package. So I think Hamlin, I think he gets it done, or not gets it done. I don't think he wins, but I think he does, in fact, outpoint Larson at that race. And then Daytona, I would lean towards Hamlin because he's better at super speedways, but Daytona is Daytona. I don't know what's going to happen there. So I would give the slight edge to Hamlin right now, unless Larson can find something else. But yeah, it's going to be a close battle. I wish we could see it battle out for the championship, but unfortunately we're not. It's sad. But hope you have a great rest of your day. Hope you have a great weekend. This weekend we got the Indy Road Course for NASCAR and IndyCar. So make sure to tune into that. They will be on the NBC networks, NBC or NBCSN. I think the Cup race is on NBC. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but it's actually at noon this week. Yeah, how about that? Woo! But yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I'm excited for it, but I do miss the oval. It's a historic track, but I've gone on long enough. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Have a great day, great weekend. Woo NASCAR.